Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks for joining this month's webinar. As we have been trying to do every month, one session on a particular topic. And this month's topic is data visualization. So it'll be an hour long, maybe 40, 50 minutes, and then Q&A kind of a thing, webinar, which you will see depending on the pace or maybe more. I think that has too much great content and which is really wonderful. So today's webinar is brought to you by Big Data Trunk. Big Data Trunk will take just a couple of minutes, 2 slides to talk about it. Is a professional services, training services company founded in 2008. We provide technology and soft skills training, online and in person, for mostly corporates, but as well as some public trainings are available for individuals to join. Our main area is data, AI, and all the interesting things happening around AI and data related stuff. We obviously do a lot more technology training in cloud, DevOps, emerging technology, and several different skills. We also have a good set of code catalog courses for soft skills and leadership training. So if your team or you are needing the training, check out our website and things. We'll share some of the next steps and links for you to come on to free webinars, as well as some of the more paid ones as well. If you're interested, here is a quick link about our data visualization and AI. I think a small subset of what we offer, from ChatGPT to generative, so many different areas which we cover, and all of that is available on our website. Specifically, today's topic is kind of focused towards data visualization, and Sat is a very, very popular speaker in this category, and she is one of our top instructors, talking as a visiting professor or speaker on Stanford. She also does, she is a co-founder of a couple of startups actually. One which is Rainforce, which is a Salesforce consulting or general sales consulting company. They have a couple of products, and she's been working on advisory roles in the area for several different small companies and areas as well. So she's very passionate around data, especially data visualization, data storytelling, and she is going to be the presenter for today. With that, I'm going to stop the share and let Satoko take over. So when you get a chance, get out the mute, and the floor would be yours, Satoko.
All right. All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you and I can see your screen. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Raju. All right. Thanks for joining this webinar. And we're going to cover data visualization today. So I'm so glad that we are covering this topic because it's very close to my heart. And you can see my introduction here. I use data visualization and storytelling to help companies or even individuals like you make decisions with actionable insights. So that's my goal. That's my passion. And again, thanks for joining. I am so glad we're going to cover this. And if you have any questions, as Raju suggested, you can just on the chat window, we are going to cover your questions later. And we have a lot to cover, so let's get going. Here, in 2023, I'm still a little surprised to see this misconception. When it comes to data visualization, people may think, oh, okay, so this is a way to share my idea, share my insights. But to me, it is for communicate. So it's not about just sharing, it's making sure whoever your audiences are understand what you are trying to communicate through data. And that's what so visualization is sort of a vehicle, the tool that you can use. Andrew Grube, CEO of Intel, well said. So he said, the communication is not about what we say, it's about how well we understood. I believe his comment is very true when it comes to data visualization. Then what is good visualization? There are many benefits when you use it. So let's take a look at, some benefits here. And then I've been working on this data visualization like last 15 years. And then those are the benefits that I've noticed. And some of you may be data scientists or analysts. Maybe you are not directly working on data, but somehow related to data visualization. For those of you directly use data, the first two things here: simplify complex information, spot patterns. Those are the main benefits. And then the rest, whatever you do, I believe those four are the greatest benefits when it comes to visualization. And after all, it helps your audience to making the right decisions. Let me know, let me put the chat windows. Since I have a lot to cover, I'm actually going a little bit faster than usual. Raju, is the speed okay so far?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, great, thank you. And the visualization, I'm sure some of you are curious, some visualization work, what are the good examples? So let's go over this. When it comes to visualization, I first thought, okay, I'm just going to learn about skills, what chart works, what color works, what font works. But what I really noticed was covering 4 different things. First of all, we need to understand what your data says. And second one is what data story, it's not what the data says, it's about what audience needs to understand. And then the last one is a visual design. That's when it comes to what kind of chart you need to use, how you want to present. Is it the real-time presentation, or is it more like after meeting presentation, you can send something in email or sending a link to dashboard and stuff. And you can use the time. What I noticed was my skill went up and down, right? Made some mistakes, just like any exercises, building a muscle of data visualization. And data visualization is not just one thing. As I said, there's a data, there's this audience. So when you think about visualization, I want you to think about those 4 items. And if any of those are missing, this is what happened. So here, I'm just going to cover one area, which is visual and data. So when the data is very strong and when visual is very strong, and if narratives or shareability, basically the accessing what you came up with, is missing, people may say, it's invisible, what's going on? So the trust of your story will be lower. And if you cannot share, whether it's a raw data or visualization, people may wonder, where does the data come from? So those are the things that typically causes issue. So when you, again, share data visualization, you can use this Venn diagram, 4 circles, as sort of the checklist. And what are the potential risks? Is it comprehensive? Is it misleading? You can ask yourself about your communication style through data visualization. All right, enough about the concept. Let's have fun and look at real world scenario. And this is not what I came up with. This is what I found in very established magazines or websites or research paper, you name it. And using a chat window, or you can just note it down yourself. What would you do to improve visualization like this? And I'm using COVID, this pandemic information. You can see the number of deaths per day, increased of COVID-19, right, in the per country. So well-designed chart can pack very powerful punch, even stronger than words. But when it comes to a poorly designed chart like this, it's very confusing. So it talks about, this chart is about the deaths per day per country, but it looks like some kind of tornado. Okay? Although it is very engaging, there is a few items. What are you going to do when it comes to taking actions? All right, and we're going to, of course, cover a good example as well. I just wanted to share somewhat not so good example first. How about this one? This is also about COVID, and it came from CDC. CDC, I'm sure they have many analysts, data scientists, data visualization engineer. But this happens. So when it comes to looking at maps like this, our brain is wired to see the darkest color is the most strongest, the highest something, highest X. So when you look at this, you can see this legend here. Somehow the reported case, 5,000 to 10,000 is the darkest, some kind of purple. And then here, 10,000 and more is a little bit lighter. So although when you look at this map, it looks like, I believe this is Alabama, right? And Georgia, that's the, and Arizona, that's the highest COVID area, but it is not. In fact, it's 10,001 and more. Texas here, or California, is the highest COVID cases. And this happens. And then, of course, CDC made a correction later on. So what I wanted to say here is, if you go against your audience's assumption, in this case, the darker color is the highest X, it will be very confusing. Another case, another COVID examples. So this one is from Alabama Public Health. You can notice that it's very cluttered. For this case, you may reduce the number of the font, make it smaller, maybe less color variation. That would be useful. All right, and another one here. I'm going to talk about data visualization. When is it effective? So typically when people look at the visualization, there are two things going on. This is your brain. One is seeing, looking at your image, visuals, and thinking, right? So the balance, thinking and seeing, data visualization actually should be balanced out. If data visualization is not working really well, thinking will get heavier, seeing is not working. So good visualization has to be simple, and thinking process has to be smaller, meaning the energy, the brain thinking consumption, that brain consumption has to be much easier. Another thing that I'd like to share is that a lot of data scientists or neuroscientists came up with this theory, and that they actually had a lot of experimentation. People actually use what they call visual array. When people see new visualization, they're actually thinking about what they've seen in the past. Then they understand, oh, this is what's going on. Okay, so what does this mean to me, right? So as this thinking process going on, a lot of people are relying on the visuals, images that they've seen in the past. That's how they build long-term memory. I believe all of you here, I assume you are using some sort of charts and graphs. And then you want your audience understand your story, what you're sharing, your insights, put in their long-term memory. So I believe this is a very helpful one. I always ask my audience what kind of chart they're used to. Is it bar chart, pie chart, or is it real-time dashboard? What kind of real-time dashboards? And then trying to produce the ones that are closer to what they're used to. I'm moving to another areas, a few more tips when it comes to data visualization. When it comes to visualizing data, we really haven't had a chance to learn. At school, we learn math, how to make sense of numbers. We learn languages, English, then we know how to put the sentences together. But a visualization, most of us have never had a chance to learn. And to make things more challenging, something like Microsoft Excel has this default view. So without thinking, we tend to say, okay, Excel came up with this one, so let's use this. But there's one more step I would encourage you to take. So here's some chart like this. It's really good to put the annotation. It could be a shade or a text. Just because Microsoft Excel or other visualization tools such as Tableau or maybe Domo, maybe other things you use, I want you to think about adding annotations here. The next one here is the title. So I put this not ideal and better one. Simpler, again, the less brain consumption, the better it is. And those are the things that most software, most applications don't really share what's the best practices are. This is very obvious. We don't have to go. So the typical example for this is months. January, February, December. We don't need to say it could be just J or the number 1 for January. Make labels very easy. Another one is this. When people look at charts like this, our eyes follow this continuous path. This path, when it comes to this up and down, brain consumption gets higher. So if it's possible, you can sort it out and show it this way or the other way, descending order. Remove additional color, that would be a cognitive overload. So if you have such chart like this, in this case, I'm showing the enrollment number of students per department. It could be engineering, civil engineering. Rather than showing multiple numbers, I would suggest you put one number. So you can say maybe there is a lot of people may say, oh, there must be some stories in computer science. Another thing, I'm a little surprised when it comes to the horizontal and vertical chart decision. I still hear questions like, hey, Seth, which one should I use? So I want to share when to use vertical bars, when to use horizontal. So left side, I have 3 areas, right? When to use vertical. So make use categorical comparison. So if you have like 4 or 5 categories, vertical chart would be good. But if you have more than 5, then it gets too crowded. And then the bar here, does it fit? So the idea here is limited number of comparison, use vertical. However, if you have more than 4 or 5 categories, I would suggest using horizontal bars. Right. So here it's a very basic one, but since I get questions about which one to use, I actually added it. Another thing that I want to make sure is helping your audience identify where to look. So I'm not sure, like some of you understand, so this rule of Z. When people look at whether it's online or physical or dashboard, people tend to have this Z pattern, right? The typical, so that people look at the, here, then move here, then 3 and 4. The good example is Facebook. Now, so people go here, they move here, 3, 4. You can say, if you're creating dashboard or presentation, you have the most important story at the where the 1 is, and then the less important one, something people can look at later, I would put it here. So color, business, as well as this location, the real estate also matters. Another one I would like to show you is this F pattern. Just like Z pattern, F pattern is very common, and LinkedIn is a good example. So again, when you create the presentation, maybe you can use F pattern, not a Z pattern, and think about where exactly you can put the most important information or the chart. I covered a lot so far, but let me show you this visualization, sort of like a cheat sheet. It's from Cornell University. I work with some of the professors there, and we had this chart. We can start by asking this question: what would you like to show when you use your data visualization? Do you want to compare? Do you want to show the relationship of 2 or 3 different types? Or do you want to show the distribution, how population is distributed? Or the composition, you want to show what makes a certain things. It could be a pie chart. So by asking this question, you can actually find the best, most useful chart, right? So for example, you want to show the sales of certain locations, certain geographic area. So that's comparison or relationship. Or you can show how many people are part of the companies and where their department is. I'm showing the very basic information here, but some people say pie chart, or it could be here, the tree map. So this is a very handy one that, when it comes to deciding which chart you want to use. And another comments that, quote that I'd like to show is that the picture is not about delivering what you want to share. It forces your audience notice what they never understood. And I'm going to share a somewhat unusual idea of using visualization. This is from Fast Company a few years ago. And then it's a journey, it's experimentation of making a store receipt more useful. So typical receipt is on the left side. You have the items that you purchased, and then each item's price and total. But what this company wants to do, it's actually a grocery store, is that how do people know what they purchased and what they want to buy, or even the pattern of their purchase? So you can see meat, produce, it's categorized in a certain way, and what it means in their purchase, the composition, of their purchase. And then this one is actually a size. It seems like this person is buying a lot of seafood and less frozen food. You may, I'm sure all of you have done some sort of shopping, but looking at this is actually much more insightful than just the typical receipt. So a lot of organizations, it's not just about the chart. The opportunities for great but better data visualizations are out there. I'm going to cover a few more things. So so far we've covered a lot of chart, right, and the best practices, not so good examples, but when it comes to actual deck presentation, what are the mistakes we typically see, right? So this one is showing a video game, and then there's a theme, and then summary of the findings, and some pictures that supports the findings. And then there's a young adults, for example, you can see young adults, right? And the female gamers, there are some female gamers. However, this one is not memorable. Maybe you understand what this presentation is saying, but after the presentation, maybe 2 days later, 3 days later, months later, how many of you would be potentially remembering what you've seen? So to make it easier, you want to invite your audience's attention, right? Instead of saying video gaming 2021, you want to create a very short story. Video game industry is showing no signs of slowing down. Oh, wow, it's not slowing down. What does it mean? So there's this supporting numbers. So in this case, it's not about chart and graphs. However, it is also a data visualization, making things easier, less brain consumption. So it'll be a longer memory, easier to understand. So you probably noticed so far, it's about showing the data you have, but ultimately it's all about sharing stories using visualization. So I want you to look at this neuroscience experimentation. A group of neuroscientists look at which part of brain recognizes or gets activated when it comes to narratives. And should we say facts, or should we say narrative stories? And then this image shows the part of the brain, human brains, responds to facts or stories, right? So you can see the larger part of the brain gets activated responding to stories. In fact, a group of professors in Stanford University also had the same finding through different types of experimentation. It's from book called Made to Stick, Why Some Ideas Survive and Others Die. So Professor Heath, there were two of them, brothers, they asked students to share some stories. And then a week later, professors asked the same student group saying, hey, what do you remember? Are you remembering data or are you remembering story? What they found is 60% of students remembered story, not so much about stats data. Only 5% remembered stories. So again, when it comes to sharing data sets, let's make a story. It could be through titles like this. It could be through making things easier to see, inviting your audience to remember numbers as well, along with the stories. So when it comes to stories, it's very similar to the graph and pie chart. This is one of the checklists that you can use. When you want to show your stories, what are you trying to share? Is it time? Change over time? Are you trying to show the relationship? Do you want to drill down as you speak about your story, or do you want to zoom out? There are so many different ways that you can do. And I'm not saying which is best. What I want you to understand from this list is there are so many ways to do, and which one works for you when it comes to your data visualization and storytelling. This relates to this one. If you want to show the relationship, maybe you want to show this scatter plot. If you want to show distribution, maybe you can use histogram. And if people are used to a certain type of chart, you want to use those charts, because when it comes to visualization, people are used to what they've seen in the past, as well as this visual description. They're trying to relate what they've seen in past and what they're seeing right now. So far, I know like we covered a lot, and I hope you can join one of the Big Data Trunks training. We cover a lot about how you can use data visualization and helping your audience make the right decision. In our training, we use toolkits. There's another one, which data visualization we use, such as checklist here. So I hope you can join us, and I hope you can, you found a few, gotchas, some nuggets through this very quick free webinar today. Raju, and so I will, maybe we can open up the floor for questions.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Satoko, for a wonderful, informative, very packed. I think there are a lot of interesting nuggets, as you pointed out, and ways of thinking how visualization or sharing information, how best we can approach. So definitely great nuggets. I have one question in the chat at this point of time. If the folks want to open up, put that would be fine. So the question is, what colors do people prefer during presentation?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It sounds very basic, but it's really hard. So there are three things I recommend you to consider. One is branding. So if you are part of the company or organizations and the marketing folks have certain branding colors that they suggest, I would look at that one first. And then the second one is what your audience is used to. Are they used to a certain colors, or are they used to certain, sizes of fonts outside of colors? Those are the things I use. And another one is, it's actually what neuroscientists suggested. A lot of organizations say when it comes to red, oranges, that sometimes show not so good things. So for example, when sales is going down, a certain chart is displayed in red. So if you have a positive messages through your data visualization, I tend to avoid what those people are used to for negative, the colors that has a negative connotation. So 3 things: branding that you want to follow. The second one is what people are used to. The third one is this neuroscientist. They suggest use of red or oranges, sometimes yellow, can mean or can automatically invite people for something negative. So I would be very careful about the usage. And last one, there is a practice of accessibility. In fact, 3% of people, wherever you are, have some sort of color visual challenge. Basically, it's typically called colorblind, or there are so many different ways, but they tend to miss color blue and red and green. And most of the application nowadays, whether it's Excel or Tableau, they have a colorblind friendly palette color sets. So those are the ones that you want to consider. And then maybe your organization has accessibility guideline. That's what you want to check out as the last one. If you have a larger audience, 3% of your audience could be impacted by this condition. So that would be the last thing I want to add.
Perfect. Cool. Maybe, I think the colorblind, I think, is the aspect which a lot of organizations mandate and should be taken into consideration. So I don't see any more questions, but I just wanted to share some of the next steps and other resources to the team. So hopefully you're able to see my screen. As next steps, I think the session has been recorded. So we would be going ahead and putting our recording in a YouTube channel. So you can go to our website and just hit YouTube, and you'll be getting that in a few days. And also we'll be sharing the link back as a communication to wherever you joined, whether meetups or anything. You could also join our meetup groups. So there are several meetup groups which we have, whether it is Google related, whether it is Microsoft related. There are 6 meetup groups we have, depending on what you're trying to do. You could join one of those, and we post relevant events out there. In case you want to take the journey forward of whatever sort of stalking and other training, so was referring to this particular training, specifically data storytelling. So there was the instructor on that. It's a 2-day class from 14th and 16th, coming in few days, or a little more than a week. So if you're interested, you could join that, and the link will take you for all the details. This is one of the trainings which we provide for Stanford as a client, but we allow some of the public training. Some few seats are available for public. So actually you would be sitting with the group of Stanford folks in the class. So is the audience. That's one next. There are all these kind of AI courses which we have. We have generative AI courses. So if you're interested, your team is interested into any of these, which you could be getting, all these links have been shared in the chat. The final one, the next upcoming event in collaboration with Google, we are doing an in-person session if you are in the Bay Area. So in Google's San Jose office, we are doing a Dev Fest. It's an annual event by Google and different groups. We are Google Developer Group in Santa Clara. We officially hold the Google Developer Group in Santa Clara. And so we have posted, and that link is also available. You can join that. It's free. It's a full day session on December 1st. And there are 2 tracks which we are talking about is cloud, and specifically cloud optimization, and then lunch and all those that will be served. And then we are going to talk about a generative AI workshop. That's the free event in collaboration with Google, which is coming up. And then you can attend any of these webinars and things which you would like to based on that. So we hope you found this informative. helpful. We are going to be here for a few more minutes, but thank you for joining the session, and hope to see you in future webinars, events, wherever you are. But otherwise, thank you very much in terms of content. That's what we had. Appreciate you joining our session webinar, and we try to host every month. That's our goal. We might slow down in this winter break as it's coming in the year end, but I think that's the intent, to really host one per month itself. So with that, I'm going to end the recording now, and thank you for joining. We'll hang in there for a few more minutes.